Walk into any garden center in America in April, and you will find the same 30 plants in the same plastic trays. Every single one was selected by the same process, not which plant feeds your family best, but which plant can be mass propagated, shipped, sold at maximum markup, and replaced again next spring. That is not a gardening program. That is a subscription model. 13 plants exist that do not need that system. Perennials and self-seeders that come back every year. Plants that thrive in the conditions store-sold varieties demand intervention for. None of them are on the shelf at Home Depot. Here is why and where to find them. 1. Orach mountain spinach. Orach was the most common cooking green in Europe before spinach replaced it. Not because spinach tasted better, but because spinach fit in a commercial package. Orach grows to 6 feet, thrives in the summer heat that destroys regular spinach, and produces edible leaves in red, purple, gold, and green from spring through hard frost. It is a self-seeding annual. Plant once in April, and it returns on its own every year after that. Sow half an inch deep, 18 inches apart. Begin harvesting when the plant reaches 2 feet. Seed sources: Baker Creek, strictly medicinal, and southern exposure. 2. Sorrel, perennial lemon flavor. Sorrel produces an intense lemon flavor from oxalic acid in its leaves. No citrus required. It is one of the first plants to push through in April, often before any other vegetable has germinated. One planting produces for 15 to 20 years. The commercial food industry cannot use sorrel because the flavor compounds degrade within hours of harvest. It is impossible to package and ship, which means the only fresh sorrel available is the sorrel you grew yourself. Plant crowns, or direct sow 1 inch deep in April. Harvest lightly in year 1 and harvest freely from year 2 onward. Seed sources: Baker Creek, territorial seed, Johnny's. 3. Malabar spinach, the summer green. In July, when every other leafy green has bolted and finished, Malabar spinach accelerates. This tropical vine from South Asia has been cultivated for 3,000 years. Above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, it produces more leaves, the exact opposite of conventional spinach. A single vine trained up a 6-foot trellis produces pounds of mild, spinach-flavored leaves weekly through July, August, and September. Start seeds indoors in April, then transplant after the last frost to a trellis in full sun. Seed source: Baker Creek and Kitazawa Seed Company. 4. Walking onion plants itself. Instead of producing seeds, walking onions form bulbils at the tops of their stalks. When the stalks become heavy enough, they bend to the ground, and the bulbils root where they land. The plant propagates itself permanently with no input from you. Thomas Jefferson grew it at Monticello. It disappeared from commercial availability because a plant that propagates indefinitely without purchased inputs cannot generate recurring seed sales. Every part is edible from April through November. Plant bulbils 2 inches deep in April. No watering, no fertilizer, no replanting is required after establishment. Seed sources: southern exposure and territorial seed. 5. Lovage. 20 years from one planting. Perennial celery flavor powerhouse. Lovage provides the same flavor as celery, but 10 times more intense. It is a perennial that grows to 6 feet and requires almost no attention. Every part is edible. Leaves make a celery substitute. Hollow stems can be used as drinking straws for savory drinks, seeds are a spice, and roots are a vegetable. One plant established from an April planting produces for 20 years. Commercial garden centers do not stock it because 20 years of production from one purchase is incompatible with their business model. Plant it in a permanent spot in April. Lovage resents being moved. It does well in average soil and tolerates partial shade. Seed sources are Richter's herbs, strictly medicinal, and Baker Creek. 6. Purslane, the weed worth more than spinach. If you have ever pulled purslane out of your garden as a weed, you discarded the richest known plant source of omega-3 fatty acids. A 1992 study in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition confirmed this. In France, Greece, and Turkey, it sells at premium prices. In the United States, gardeners spray it with herbicide. The gap exists because purslane wilts within hours of harvest. It is impossible to package and ship commercially. The only fresh purslane available is what you grow yourself. Scatter seeds on the soil surface in April after your last frost, because purslane needs light to germinate. It self-seeds freely after the first year. Seed sources are Baker Creek and strictly medicinal. 7. Nasturtium. Eat every part, protect everything else. Nasturtium is one of the only plants where every part is food. Leaves taste like mild watercress. Flowers contain lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids associated with eye health. Unripe seeds pickled in brine are indistinguishable from capers, and they were called poor man's capers in England for 3 centuries. As a trap crop, nasturtiums draw aphids away from your vegetables. Plant a border around your beds, and aphid populations concentrate there instead of on your food crops. Direct sow after the last frost, 1 inch deep. They self-seed after year 1. They prefer poor soil. They are available at most garden centers, one of the few plants on this list you can buy locally. 8. Ground cherry vanilla pineapple. Self-seeds forever. Ground cherry produces small, sweet, golden fruits inside a papery husk that taste like vanilla crossed with pineapple. It was common in American gardens through the 19th century. Amelia Simmons described it in American Cookery in 1796. Then it disappeared when commercial varieties that shipped better took over. It tolerates heat and drought better than tomatoes, and it self-seeds so aggressively that one April planting becomes a permanent garden presence. Fruit store for weeks inside their husk at room temperature. Start indoors 6 weeks before last frost. Transplant after soil reaches 60 degrees. One plant produces hundreds of fruits. Seed source: Baker Creek, Southern Exposure, Fedco. 9. Claytonia grows through frost when nothing else will. Claytonia is a cold season green native to the American West. It tolerates hard frost, grows in waterlogged soil, and produces tender, mild, slightly succulent leaves. Named miner's lettuce because gold rush miners foraged it for vitamin C. It peaks in early April, exactly when the garden is most empty. It cannot survive the commercial supply chain because the leaves are too delicate. The only fresh Claytonia available is what you grow yourself. Scatter seeds on the soil surface in early April. It is self-seeding and will establish a permanent patch after the first year. Seed sources include Baker Creek, Adaptive Seeds, and Wild Garden Seed. 10. Amaranth. The crop colonial powers banned it. Amaranth produces edible leaves all season and a grain harvest in autumn. The grain contains 14 to 16% protein, higher than wheat, rice, or corn, and includes all essential amino acids. The Aztec civilization built its agriculture around amaranth. After the conquest of Mexico, Hernán Cortés prohibited its cultivation. Farmers found in possession of amaranth faced having their hands cut off. That suppression worked. Amaranth disappeared from the Western food system for 300 years. It is now sold as a premium health food grain, despite being trivially easy to grow. Surface sow in April after the last frost. Seeds need light to germinate. Harvest leaves all summer and grain heads in autumn. Seed source: Baker Creek, southern exposure, strictly medicinal. 11. Skirret, 1 April planting, a generation of roots. Skirret was the centerpiece of medieval feasts across England and France for 400 years. The roots, clusters of sweet, finger-sized white pieces that taste like parsnip crossed with sweet potato, disappeared from commercial availability for one reason: they cannot be harvested by machine. For a home gardener, that is irrelevant. Plant the crown in April, pull what you need each autumn, replant the crown. It returns every year without intervention. Hardy to Zone 5. Seed sources include Baker Creek, strictly medicinal, and UK suppliers shipping internationally. 12. Good King Henry, 3 vegetables, 1 perennial. Good King Henry grew next to every cottage door in medieval England for 4 centuries. Asparagus-like shoots in spring, spinach-like leaves in summer, broccoli-like flower buds in autumn. 3 harvests from 1 plant. A 2019 University of Ljubljana study found the leaves contain 30% more iron than commercial spinach. It vanished from commercial availability because you cannot harvest it until the 2nd year. Modern agriculture cannot wait. Plant it in your most difficult corner, clay soil, partial shade, or rocky ground. It prefers conditions that stress modern vegetables. Year 1, ignore it. Year 2, harvest for 15 years. Seed sources are Baker Creek, strictly medicinal, and Richter's herbs. 13. Scorzonera heals your gut and improves your soil. Medieval physicians prescribed Scorzonera for digestive complaints for centuries. A 2017 Wageningen University study confirmed why. It contains more inulin, the prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, than any other measured root vegetable, including chicory root, the industrial source of most commercial prebiotic supplements. The deep taproot breaks up compacted soil and improves structure for subsequent plantings. When cooked, it tastes so much like oysters that it earned that name across 5 European languages. Frost makes it sweeter. Leave roots in the ground through autumn and pull them in November. Direct sow in April in deeply loosened soil. Returns as a perennial after year 1, hardy to Zone 3. Seed sources are Baker Creek, strictly medicinal, and Fedco. Every plant on this list produces food for years from a single planting, requires no annual seed purchase, and in most cases improves the soil it grows in. None of them are on the shelf at any commercial garden center in America. That is not a coincidence. A garden that feeds a family for 15 years from 1 April planting is not a customer. The commercial seed industry has no revenue model for the gardener who plants once and harvests for a generation. The Aztecs built a civilization on amaranth. Colonial authorities banned it. Medieval families fed themselves through winters on perennials that returned without purchased inputs. The consolidation of the seed industry in the 20th century did not eliminate these plants. It simply stopped selling them. They still exist. The seed is available. Use April to plant something that does not require you to come back to the store next spring. Start with 3, not 13. Pick the ones that solve your specific problem. Hot, dry summers destroying your greens. Orach and Malabar spinach. Difficult corners with poor soil or shade. Good King Henry and lovage. Done. Buying annual seed. Walking onion, skirret, sorrel, Scorzonera. For seed, Baker Creek Heirloom has the largest selection. Strictly medicinal and southern exposure are strong alternatives. All 3, open-pollinated seed, meaning the plants you grow produce seed you can save and replant indefinitely for free. Plant open-pollinated seed in April. Save seed in autumn. Plant again next April for free. That is how gardens worked before the industry decided gardeners should be customers instead of growers. 2 questions. Before you close this, which of these 13 have you heard of before today? And which one are you ordering first? Drop both in the comments. I read every one, and the questions you ask shape the next video. Subscribe. Next week, the fruit trees. The commercial nursery industry replaced with apple trees, and why every one of those replacements was inferior.